Okay, so today we're tackling something that seems so simple, but is actually a hilarious linguistic mess. We're talking about cats, specifically how we talk about cats. And let me tell you, it gets weird. So let me ask you straight up. You think you know how to talk about cats? I mean, really. Because I have a feeling you're about to be surprised. We're going to dive into just how strange and wonderful things get when we try to describe that majestic, mysterious, and, let's be honest, kind of ridiculous creature.
You know, we all know the basics. If you paid any attention in a high school language class, you've probably heard these. Spanish, you've got gato. German, Katze. French, chat. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, language is almost never that simple.
And this is a perfect example of what I mean. Let's take a quick trip to Scandinavia. In Finland, a cat is a kissa. It's cute. But you just hop across the border into Sweden and you start calling for kissa, kissa. You're gonna get some very funny looks. Because over there, kissa means to pee. As one Finnish Reddit user put it, this led to some incredibly confusing moments for the adults in their life growing up. I bet.
So that brings us to our first big question. What does the cat actually say? We're talking about automatopoeia, the words we use for sounds. And when it comes to animal sounds, it is an absolute orchestra of absurdity out there. But cats are a very special case.
So get this. For an animal that seems so mysterious and unknowable, the sound it makes is amazingly consistent across cultures. The French say meow, English speakers say meow, the Chinese say meow. It's like the one thing the entire planet can agree on. We have found international harmony, and it's brought to us by cats. Who would have thought? Now, let's compare that beautiful, orderly consensus to the sound a dog makes. Okay, if the cat's meow is a perfectly tuned violin, a dog's bark is a toddler just banging on a drum set. It is pure, unadulterated linguistic chaos. Just look at this madness. In France, dogs go woof. In Italy, it's bow bow. In the Arab world, ha ha. And my personal favorite, in China, they go wong wong. It's the same sound, but our brains interpret it in wildly different ways. Meanwhile, the cat is just sitting over there smugly meowing in a language everyone understands. And this Reddit comment just completely nails it. The ancient Egyptians, who, famously worshipped cats, called them mao, which is literally the sound they make. The Vietnamese do it too with meow. And in Cantonese, it's mao. So basically, for thousands of years, we've just been pointing at cats and calling them meow. It's efficient, I'll give us that. So cats are in our ears, but man, they are also on our brain. They haven't just conquered our homes, they have wormed their way into our languages through some of the most bizarre idioms you will ever hear. Let's start with a classic one. Has the cat got your tongue? We say it all the time when someone's gone quiet. It sounds kind of harmless, almost cute, doesn't it? Yeah, well, about that. Yikes. Okay, that got dark really fast. Turns out the cat in the saying isn't some fluffy little pet. It's the cat o' nine tails, which was this absolutely brutal whip they used for punishment. And apparently, after a session with that cat, victims were, let's just say, not feeling very talkative. All of a sudden, that expression is not so cute anymore, is it? Okay, let's try another one that sounds completely unhinged. In English, if someone is losing their mind, if they're totally freaking out, you might say they're having kittens, as in literally birthing a litter of tiny cats. It makes absolutely no sense until you find out where it came from. That's right, this whole expression comes from medieval superstition. People genuinely believed that witches could put a curse on pregnant women that would make them think they were giving birth to kittens. So having kittens literally meant you were in a state of cursed, magical panic. You know what? I think I'll just stick to saying I'm a little stressed. And this weirdness is global. Of course, it's raining cats and dogs in England. In Hindi, a hypocrite is a cat that, after eating 900 rats, goes on a pilgrimage. I love that one. In Romania, if you're blaming someone else, you're throwing the cat in another's yard. And then there's the global classic, all cats are bright in the dark, which is a poetic way of saying Some distinctions just don't matter. So, with all this linguistic chaos surrounding them, where did our modern word cat even come from? Well, let's put on our detective hats and do a little digging. So our journey starts right where you'd expect, ancient Egypt, with Mao. Then the Greeks came along with ailuros, which means tail wagger. Cute. But the real game changer was the late Latin word catus, which popped up around 400 AD. From catus, it was a pretty short leap to the Old French chat, which starts to sound really familiar. And just like the Roman legions, that word catus just marched across Europe and completely took over. It became cat in English, Katze in German, gâteau in Spanish, even cage in Breton. It turns out, almost all of Europe's domestic cats and their names are basically descendants of this one Roman import. Which really brings us to the biggest question of all. Why? Why all this fuss? Why has this one animal left such a gigantic, hilarious, and just deeply weird paw print on all of our languages? Well, the answer might be right here. 10,000 years. That's how long we've been living with these little creatures. They protected our green from mice, they kept us warm, and they have almost certainly been judging our life choices from day one. That's a lot of time to work your way into a culture's language. And that brings us to the most personal part, the nicknames. A Reddit thread on this was an absolute goldmine of comedy. For instance, in Finland, some affectionate nicknames include Karva Perse, that means hairy arse, and my personal favorite, Kakapuli, which is pookie butt. In Chile, a cat becomes a gato huion specifically, and I quote, when he breaks the couches. And in Mexico, it's the sweet and simple Michi. It's just a beautiful kind of madness. One Finnish user really just summed it all up perfectly with a phrase that roughly translates to, a dear child has many names. And that's it, isn't it? That's what this is all about. Our language for cats is so rich and so strange because our relationship with them is. They're not just animals. They're our fur babies, our little hairy arses, our tiny poopy butts. So in the end, the words we use for cats tell a story about our history, our superstitions, and really our deepest affections. They're weird, they're funny, and sometimes they're pretty dark, which kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What do the words you use for the people and the pets in your life really say about you? Thanks for tuning in.